For Project 4, our group has been working on implementing the backend for the student task table in the Expertise system, which is E442 re-implement student task controller, and also the backend for the front end, which we built in Project 3. To start, this is the front end we built in the last round of the project and continue to hone for this part of the project. Most recently, we've added this enable filters option that starts out disabled but allows users to filter by the topic or course name or whatever column they want to. But anyway, this front end that we built in the first round is used to call the backend with the new API endpoints that we've implemented from the student task controller, and that is how this table is populated right here. The front end for the list function has been implemented and is how this table populates, but the front end for the view function, which was the other aspect of our implementation, has not been implemented yet, and so we won't be able to see it in the UI. However, if we open up our Postman collection, we can test the view function as well as get a more general idea of exactly what the controller returns. So first there's this login that automatically attaches the authorization token to the future requests. And if we call the list function, like I said, we will get the data that comes from this database. So we have a couple of Rails assignments and then design pattern assignments. As you can see, it's in this array of JSON data with an assignment, current stage, participant info, which is how in the future we'll know which task a student clicks on. For example, if they click in the table to open up an assignment. And additionally, it just has the rest of the table information, such as stage deadline, topic, and permission granted. For the view function, we have another request here. And you pass it the participant ID here in the query parameters, which is how it will be implemented in the future front end. But once we send the request, we get this body that's in a similar structure to the list function, except it just returns one particular student task instead of the list of them. Now we will show the test cases we implemented and show them passing. First, we have the test for the student task model, where the bulk of our application logic is. So we first set up this before each block that assigns this assignment instance variable and the participant instance variable. And then the rest of the test cases, which test the initialize method that it properly assigns all values, the .from participant method, which creates a student task from a participant, as you can see here, and the parse stage deadline, which is sort of a helper utility function to change the formatting of the string. So anyway, when we run this model, you can see that it passes each test case. And for the student task controller, we have something similar, except we have tests for our endpoints. So first we have this helper function that logs in a user so we can test authenticated endpoints. And then we describe this student tasks API and supply it with the path of our API endpoint, give it a couple tags, and then test that we get the correct response, which is 200 when we attach the proper authorization, as well as 400 when we do not attach the proper authorization, since this is a bad bearer token. Additionally, we test things like the structure, format, and typing of the response for this particular user, since this token is set with an individual's login details. So when we run this controller spec, we can see that all test cases pass. So finally, we will show the Swagger UI, which collects these API endpoints into a nice formatted structure. So we just re-specify our default host to match our application and provide a bearer token here. And then, as you can see, we have our student tasks list endpoint here. The view endpoint is not here because since the front end for the view isn't implemented, the request was just throwing errors every time. But regardless, the student tasks, we can try out and execute the request, and we see that we do get a 200 response, despite this error OK, which actually happens with all of the Swagger UI endpoints at this point. So we are able to send the request, and we have our potential schema for the request listed as well.